all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
Welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we have a few things to talk about. It's going to be a lot of basketball driven today because, again, excitement is at a fever pitch, but there's also some news that happened and transpired when it comes to scheduling, which is always a lot of fun. And what happened today is simply this: Arkansas, Miami, the U will be facing off against each other on Tuesday, December 3rd in Miami as part of the ACC SEC Challenge. Now, this is going to be something that, of course, ESPN's always in charge of. They are the ones that go out there and make the money, and they get to decide which games are which. And you know, Arkansas playing Duke last year in this exact same event. Like, going back to that real quick before we get into Miami, that was incredible. Like, that was honestly maybe one of the very, 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 very few times that either the SEC or ESPN or, you know, some third-party entity that's always out to get Arkansas, that may be the one time that Arkansas did not get screwed in something. Like, they were actually given not only a great game, but the best of games, the best matchup, and they got it at home. And they won the game. Granted that, you know, the season one didn't go great, but at least they had the game. So that was something because it was last year was the very first year that they ever did it. I was expecting, okay, well, Arkansas, because, you know, they always get disrespected or they always get hated on, you know, they're going to get some other team. But as I talked about when that was announced over a year ago, or about a year ago, the reason they did that is because it's very much proven that Arkansas, in basketball at least, is the second most watched, paid attention to SEC basketball program when it comes to television ratings. If you don't believe me, I guess I could have posted the article, but there's an article at CBS Sports that they wrote about a year ago explaining all of this. And they had a formula that was put into place, managing out the kind of eyeballs that are going to be watching on TV. So I was extremely happy with that. And it was almost like, okay, well, that gives some grace. That gives some grace to the SEC ACC Challenge, because when it was the SEC Big 12 Challenge, Arkansas got, I guess their best team that they got in that whole deal was probably Baylor that year. They went on the road and nearly won, but fell short. But it felt like every single year they were playing TCU or Texas Tech. Like that, I just felt like every single year it was or those teams, or Oklahoma State. And nothing against those teams, but it just didn't really have the same luster. And especially if you had to go on the road, playing over there in Stillwater isn't even exactly going to inspire everybody to get all hyped up and excited. But still, the challenge itself, I actually really like. I like the conference challenges because, let's be honest, Duke last year, there is no way in any capacity on God's green earth that Duke would ever agree to play Arkansas in Bud Walton Arena. Ever. Like, that's never going to happen. A home and home, absolutely not. Not going to happen. The only way I could see Duke saying yes to that would be if they got one game in Bud Walton and then Arkansas played 5 games at Cameron Indoor. That's it. So, other than maybe joining the SEC, what happened last year was the only way that Duke was going to play against Arkansas in Bud Walton. Like, that was the only way that it was going to go down. That was the only way it was going to happen. So that's why I like these events, is because in some cases you get to play teams in your home arena that you normally wouldn't get to play, or that normally wouldn't agree to play, because Duke is one of those programs, they don't do home and homes. It's not even like just it's an Arkansas thing. Like, they just don't do home and homes because they're Duke. So that's why I love these conference challenges. Arkansas was once a part of the SEC Big East Challenge. They went up to UConn and played. I think it was Mike Anderson's first year they did that. They played Syracuse, I think, the next year at home, which was still an incredible game. I remember I was a student for that one. There were some other foes there. So this is not uncommon. It's pretty frequent that this is going to continue on. And now Arkansas is going to be going down to Miami. So this is a road game. This is a road game. It's going to be down there in Miami, Florida. So for those of you who are maybe looking for a little bit nicer weather down there during the December months to get away from Arkansas and you want to see a really intriguing matchup, there you have it. The SEC ACC Men's Basketball Challenge will be against Miami Tuesday, December 3rd. Now, here's a few things. This comes from the official release from the University of Arkansas. I found this fascinating because anytime you have these opponents, always like, all right, so what's the history? What's the history between the two? Well, the Razorbacks and the Hurricanes of Miami have only met on one previous occasion. Now, think about that. And the entire history of Razorback basketball and Miami basketball, two major programs, especially one like Arkansas that's had a lot of appearances in the NCAA tournament, has had a lot of appearances in events that were, preseason NITs or Maui Invitationals, whatever. In the entire history of all that, these teams have only faced off one time. And I would be curious to look it up. Maybe Hog Stats has something like this, but I'd be curious to look up how many times, like if you look just the Power 5 teams, like what is the least amount of times Arkansas has played that particular team? Because I was trying to think of maybe, again, it could be one other thing maybe, but playing the team like Miami one time is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So I thought that was really interesting. And it actually happened, and I remember this game too. They were paired in the first round of the 2000 NCAA tournament in Nashville, where Miami, who was number 23 in the country, they were the 6th seed. They defeated the 11th seed Arkansas 75-71. Now, for those of you who are like trying to rack your mind and going back, that was the same year that Arkansas won the SEC tournament. That Arkansas basketball team was not going to the NCAA tournament. In fact, it was quite the disappointment considering the roster of players you had. And you felt like it was going to be better than what it was, but you finished 19-15 overall, but 7-9 in conference play and finished third in the SEC West. Yeah, that was back when they had divisions back then. So it's pretty funny to see. But still, that was quite the thing to think back to that and winning on that run in the SEC tournament. The players on that was a guy named Joe Johnson. I don't know if anybody heard of him. He's pretty good. He only averaged 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 2.5 assists that year. The second leading scorer of that team that year, man, this is going back. Chris Walker. Do you guys remember Chris Walker? He's a senior guard. He's about 6'5". He averaged about 11 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, and 2 assists. After that, Brandon Dean, which is my guy. I still have his jersey. He's one of my favorite players. Freak athlete, 6'1", but won the dunk contest. Teddy Gibson, Alonzo Lane, TJ Cleveland, Carl Baker, Jason Gilbert, Brandon Davis, Charles Tatum, my guy Blake Edens, Larry Satchel, and Denicio Gomez. That was that roster that year. And they were able to go on a run and win the SEC tournament, which got them into the NCAA tournament. But the fact is I remember that run and I remember that game. I guess I didn't remember it being so close, though. For some reason, I had it in my mind that Arkansas got blown out. But it was actually a pretty close game, and Arkansas was unable to come up into that. So here's the thing that's actually kind of ironic, too. John Calipari, the head coach of Arkansas right now, this is going to be the second time he faces the Miami Hurricanes in just as many seasons, because last year for the SEC ACC Challenge, Calipari and his 12th ranked Kentucky Wildcats beat number 8 Miami 95-73 in Rupp Arena. Just donkey punched them. And I saw that and I'm like, okay, yeah. But here's what's crazy. And this just shows you how things change. Arkansas, when they beat Duke, it was a much different feeling after that game for the rest of the season than it was for the rest of the year. And same goes for Miami, because I'm like, I thought Miami was terrible last year, seeing their number 8 in the country and everything. Well, last year, they ended up finishing 15-17 overall and 6-14 in the ACC. That's coming off of a Final Four appearance, because just 2 years prior, they were in the Final Four. So they started 11-2 in their first 13 games. They beat Georgia, Kansas State, Notre Dame, even beat 16th ranked Clemson, who ended up being really good. And then once they lost, man, it sounds so familiar. Once they lost to Kentucky in the ACC SEC Challenge, they lost 4 of their next 5 ACC games, with their one being against Virginia Tech, and they just fell apart. So Miami's not coming off of the greatest of years, but you know what? Neither is Arkansas, and that's probably why they got paired up. I don't know exactly what goes into it. I know the television ratings, as I discussed, is part of it. It's not the know-all, end-all, be-all, but it is a part of it. So to see that kind of go down similar with Miami, and then now you got Arkansas, is quite similar as far as the years went. But John Calipari is the new head coach at Arkansas. Jim Larrañaga is still the coach down there at Miami. He's still down there, and it's just so crazy every time I'm like, oh yeah, he is there, because that's the same guy who coached that George Mason team that went to the Final Four that I'll never forget. He's been at Miami since 2011. So, we talk about coaches getting fired all the time and not getting a long leash. Like Larrañaga's, and he's done a pretty good job. I mean, he made it to the Final Four in 23. He made it to the Elite Eight in 22. So back-to-back really good years. But then 3 years before that, missed the tournament every year. Then 2 years before that, made it to just the NCAA tournament and lost in the first round. And made it in the Sweet 16 in 2016. And also in his second year at Miami, made it to the Sweet 16. But everything else has been not very great. So very up and down, very odd. A good team at times, but also a very subpar average team at times. But he's a good coach. He's a very good coach. And I'm not saying that Miami's going to be bad, but this should be a game that maybe Razorback fans should feel pretty good about winning. So that's what's going to be going down. Of course, we know Arkansas defeated Duke 80-75 on ESPN last year. And the record crowd, the biggest crowd in Bud Walton history, of 20,334. Wow, this is wild. Trevor Brazile had 19 points and 11 rebounds and 2 blocked shots, and he was named the SEC Player of the Week for his effort. That's right. I did forget about that too. It was crazy. Like just thinking about that in its own moment, how the season went, how it was bad, it was terrible, everyone was pissed. But to think about that, and now to think about where Arkansas is now, and the fact that Trevor Brazile is coming back and everything. So last year in the very first ACC SEC Challenge, Arkansas won and Kentucky won, so Calipari won too. But they were 7-7. So the 14 games that went down between the two different conferences, they were dead even. So I'm pretty excited about the matchup. I think it's a good one for Arkansas. I don't know if I'm going to go. I probably won't go, but it'd be fun kind of to go down there and to hang out in Miami. Because you think about it, now Arkansas is going to go to Miami in December. They're going to Madison Square Garden in December. I'm sure there'll be some other games and some other matchups they may be a part of, but still, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. And we'll continue to talk about that in the ACC SEC Challenge here in just a second. Folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Hopper Termite and Pest Control. It's that time of year. They're everywhere, man. It's like you're walking outside, you get hit up with all different types of mosquitoes and everything. That's one thing. But when it's in your house, when you get in your house and you're seeing that there's spiders everywhere, there's ants, there's rodents, there's wasps, there's cockroaches, everything, you can't have it. Not inside your house, because not only does it impact you, it impacts your family. It can impact the house. It can impact your home and your health. So you got to get rid of them, and that's what Hopper can do for you. They have a great control program that eradicates many of the common pests that you see each and every day, and it works for so many weeks, and they get the job done each and every time. They have basically across the state, but in here in Northwest Arkansas and even in the North Central Arkansas area, they have local offices, and they are great people that are not only Razorback fans, which we appreciate them being a part of us here at Natty State Sports, but they're also great Arkansans. They love their community, and they don't want to see anyone in their community infested with any sort of pest. So give them a call today if you're having these pest problems at 479-750-4070. That's 479-750-4070. You can also check out their website at callhopper.com. That's CALLHOPPER.com. And when you do call them up, be sure to say Natty, or say the boys from Natty State Sports sent you. Because if you do that, you get $50 off your very first treatment. $50 off. You can't beat that deal. You can't beat the service that they're going to give you. So give them a call today. It is Hopper Termite and Pest at 479-750-4070. All right, so we talked about Arkansas and I keep wanting to say the ACC SEC Challenge, which I guess technically it's the SEC ACC Challenge. But I was always kind of taught, at least in school, and maybe I'm making this up, but I always thought that the term, like if it's something like that, then the term when it comes in alphabetical orders first. So I always thought it was ACC, SEC. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But we've been talking about that with Arkansas playing the Miami Hurricanes. Now, I want to talk about what these types of things can mean, these events, and why I kind of alluded to why I love them, but also why I want to continue to see them and why it's good for certain teams and maybe some changes that could be made along the way. But before I do that, like just to look through all the other games that will be going on as part of this challenge. It's going to be on a December 3rd or December 4th, all these games. So there's going to be a packed out house when it comes to the SEC ACC Challenge. But Arkansas is playing at Miami. Cal is going to be playing at Missouri. Boy, howdy, what a game. Can't miss that one. Florida State will be at LSU. Okay. Decent enough, I guess. Georgia Tech's going to be at Oklahoma. That's another thing, folks. Remember, Oklahoma's in the SEC. So Georgia Tech at Oklahoma, okay. Now, Kentucky is going to be at Clemson, which Clemson was a good basketball team last year. Made it pretty far in the NCAA tournament. And so that might be a good matchup for them. And Kentucky going there. We'll see what Mark Pope's all about. You have Notre Dame at Georgia. Ole Miss at Louisville. Okay. Louisville's got a new coach. And Ole Miss, I think, is going to be pretty good. So, okay. South Carolina at Boston College. South Carolina had a great year last year. Better than everybody else anticipated because, let's be honest, they were picked to finish dead last in the SEC. So they get rewarded by going up to Boston College. Sweet. Syracuse at Tennessee. Okay, historic program with Syracuse going down to Tennessee. I don't think Syracuse is as good as what they once was, but okay. And then Wake Forest at Texas A&M. Decent game, but not really moving the needle on anything. So to be honest, the only game on that entire schedule that moves the needle slightly for me, at least on that first day, we'll get to the second day in here in a second. Of course, Arkansas at Miami. I think Kentucky at Clemson's interesting. And then maybe Syracuse at Tennessee, maybe. Other than that, I really don't care much. And it's not to say there won't be good games, not to say that those teams maybe end up being really good by the time they play, but it just doesn't really move the needle for me. It doesn't really do anything for me. Now, on December 4th, on that Wednesday, Alabama goes to North Carolina. It makes sense. Alabama had the best year of any SEC team last year, made it to their very first Final Four. Congrats, Crimson Tide. But they're going to be going up against North Carolina, which makes sense. Great matchup for them. And then Auburn's going to be going to Duke. So they're going to be going to Cameron Indoor. Now, I'm going to talk a little trash about it because I like to make fun of them. But, Auburn talks about the jungle and their home court and everything and how small it is, and that's what makes it so great and everything. You're going to get a little bit from the Cameron Indoor crazies. So good luck to you. Probably going to bet on Duke in that game. They don't lose at home very often, especially when it comes to games like this, but could potentially be a great matchup. Pitt at Mississippi State. I know Mississippi State's going to be that constant team that wins 19, 20 games a year under Chris Jans, but they're going to be boring to watch. Texas at NC State. Okay, NC State had a good run last year, but dude, they were not supposed to. Like, they won the ACC tournament, and they weren't supposed to be there, but they were. So, kudos to them, but still, just didn't really do anything for me. But you have that Texas at NC State, Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech. Okay, $5 to anybody that can name the Vanderbilt head coach right now. 3, 2, 1. I just lost $5 because I can't name him. And then finally, Virginia at Florida. Virginia is a program that has obviously had a lot of success. They won a national championship, and they're known for literally winning games by a final score of 42-36. So, that'll maybe be tough for them. That probably won't be one I watch that is aesthetically pleasing, but I think Florida's going to be good. So it might be one worth watching. But that's just to do a quick rundown of what the 2 days are going to be in store and what that conference event challenge, you want to call it, is going to be looking like overall. So here's my take on what these challenges can mean. First off, I'm hoping that they continue on. We know with conference realignment, things always being up in the air, it's kind of tough to know even what in the next 5 years is going to hold. I would bet a lot of money that all these teams that I just listed, at least one or two of them probably aren't even going to be in the same conference in 5 years. Now, I think all the SEC teams will be there. You understand, but the ACC has kind of been, I don't know, a little weird. Florida State was trying to get out. Now, who knows what Clemson does? Who knows what Miami does? But who knows what that's going to look like here in the next 5 years? So it's really hard to predict. But overall, these challenges do a lot for college basketball in general, but it brings a unique spin on scheduling that helps teams out, like what I talked about earlier. Like Duke would have never played at Arkansas at Bud Walton Arena. North Carolina probably would not schedule any team in the SEC to do a home and home. But because of how much money's involved, and because it's not necessarily done by the schools, it's done by the network of ESPN and the amount of money that's in it, it's kind of like, okay, you got to do it. And everybody alternates. You get a home game one year, you get a road game the next year. You just go back and forth. So I think it's great. And I think it's great not only to bring a lot of attention to college basketball, but I think it's great for building of resumes. It kind of forces the hand. Because say if you're a team that's trying to schedule some tough teams, or at least some good net ranking building teams, but you're struggling in the non-conference because nobody wants to play or wants to play at home. Well, this gives you an opportunity to have that. A team that maybe not the greatest in the net ranking, but it's not like you're having to play a team that's ranked 328th in the net ranking. It gives you something to build on, something to work for. And who knows, if you play them on the road and if you beat them on the road, that could go a long way for it. So it really helps out teams in that regard. And also, I like having it to where it's a little bit of a bragging right thing. Because let's be honest, whichever team or whichever conference and their teams end up winning more of these games than losing, it 100% does not mean that conference is better overall, top to bottom, in basketball. It does not mean that. But it is fun to say. It is fun to say if you're talking about it. And this isn't one of these SEC chance thing, but this is just, last year it tied, so you can't really say anything about it. But I do laugh, and I do remember one time when the SEC Big 12 Challenge, the SEC, it was pretty handedly. They beat the Big 12 pretty good by 7-3 or something like that. And it was so funny because I was like, is the SEC a better conference than the Big 12? Absolutely not. But they beat them. Look, in the challenge, they won. They won their games. They won more games, so therefore they're better. It doesn't mean squat. It's just fun to talk trash about it. So say if the SEC ends up beating the ACC, and since now you're actually playing 14 games, it's now, I guess, technically 16 games, that will be fun to maybe talk trash about, maybe have some fun with. Let's say if the SEC goes, 11-5, right? Yeah, my math's correct, or 10-6. Let's look at that, SEC. SEC's better than the ACC, better than Duke, better than North Carolina. It's just a fun little trash talking point that everybody wants to point to, or maybe people will actually use, maybe actually will talk about, maybe actually will care about. But again, I want these challenges to keep going, and I'm glad it's with the ACC. When it was the Big East, that was the coolest thing, the old Big East. But obviously the Big East isn't what it once was. So that's something that I was always big on, is just as long as it's a big-time conference. I like the Big 12 and even the ACC. I guess you don't have to worry about the Pac-12 being that. But here's what I would love to see at some point in time. I feel like Arkansas, just generally speaking, has not played a whole lot of Big Ten teams. Now, they've played some. They had a home and home against Michigan. They had a home and home against Indiana. I know people remember that. Muss actually, in his first year, went to Indiana and won. And then the year before that, yeah, that's right. The year before that, Mike Anderson's last year, Arkansas beat Indiana at home. Or did they? Yeah, they beat Indiana at home, but lost to him in the NIT on the road, I believe. But still, you had that game from the Big Ten. And that's really been it. You haven't played Michigan State. You haven't played Ohio State, Penn State. You haven't played Wisconsin. You played Illinois way, way back when, but it's been a long time. So, I don't know. I'd like to see some sort of Big Ten team get involved. I would. I'm not saying it has to be a challenge, but it'd be nice to see Arkansas face off against one of those teams. Because, again, I've been lucky enough to see Arkansas face some really great teams and great coaches just in my lifetime. I mean, think about it. That year they went to the Elite Eight in San Francisco, got to see them go up against Gonzaga and Mark Few. They won, and got to see them go up against Coach K and Duke, but they lost. Got to see John Shire and Duke this past year and how that went down. North Carolina, I got to see them, which hasn't always gone well for Arkansas. In fact, they never beat North Carolina, so I don't want to play them, but they've been still an iconic, legendary program. Even Kansas, they played Kansas back in, I know Bill Self wasn't the coach, but they did win to go to the Sweet 16, and they beat that team too. So, there's still some teams I want them to see. I wanted to see play Michigan State at some point. I think that'd be fun. And, there'll be some other teams too. Like they haven't really played UCLA in a long time. I know they're not as iconic as they used to be, or say play Arizona. Arizona's been pretty good. Don't want to play UConn again. Seen that, been there, done that, one out of that. Never want to see them in the tournament again. But I hope it keeps going. I hope they keep developing. I hope they keep doing some things that can make this challenge in these seasons and the things that get paid attention to in the regular season really well. But till that point in time happens, I'm just going to have to sit here and be like, hey, they're playing Miami. Great. They going to win? No clue. But at least they get to go to Miami, At least they get to do something with that, right? Right. All right, folks, we know that it is still going on with the NBA Finals. Sports have slowed down, but hey, there's still some great stuff on BroThrow.com that if you want to go up against your buddies, up against your friends, and be able to bet against them and save a ton of money on the juice, don't have to worry about them, some part of the money or part of the bets going to the house, then BroThrow.com/Natty is the place for you. You go there, and we're building a community of Natty State sports on there that can feature bets that can be taken by people in your local community. And what's fun about it is not only do you get to do those bets, but then it's a really easy and swift way to pay out and to honor it up, where you simply connect your Venmo account to your PayPal, and as soon as the game's over, there it is. You got to send it or you got to request it, and then you get it, and you got the money. It's in your pocket. It's so simple. It's so clean, and it's a great web app that you need to check out if you enjoy not only betting, but also saving some money on the juice. And tonight with the NBA Finals, we know that the Celtics and the Mavericks are going to be facing off in Game 3. Celtics have won their first two, but the game's down in Dallas now. Well, I'm looking at it right now. You can get high value pick right now, where for $50, there's a few guys like Garrett and Joe who have taken the Mavericks at -3 in this game. They put $50 up against it. You feeling lucky with the Celtics? You feeling like, hey, +3 on their end? I think that's worth $50. Do it. Take it. And you can do it right now on BroThrow.com/Natty. So get to betting, get to winning some games, and get to having some fun with it when you go up against your buddies. It's BroThrow.com/Natty. That's BroThrow.com/Natty.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, so continuing on here on the John Nabors Show, live from Natty State Sports Studios. Continuing basketball even, because basketball's got a few talk. We talked about the SEC ACC Challenge for Arkansas, but we also talked about betting with BroThrow.com/Natty. And I've been looking at, things when it comes to betting and betting some on BroThrow and taking some games, and I've actually had a lot of good luck. But I've always been interested in the futures. All right, the futures and the bets and what the odds are and everything when it comes to teams, when it comes to players, when it comes to odds, everything. It just fascinates me. Even if I don't bet on it, it's still very fascinating. And this actually came from Blake Lovell, who we really enjoy him, or at least I have always enjoyed him for the odds that he has put out for college basketball and the 2025 national title. Okay, so it's just the national title. Straight up. What are the odds? Where it stands right now. And I was not shocked, but a little triggered that the team with the best odds as of right now is +800 in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, Alabama returns so many players. They return a lot of production. They have added a lot of great players. And on paper, they should be really good. I don't know if they'll be national championship worthy, but they should be really good. Because we know in the NCAA tournament, it always is a crapshoot. So it's kind of a scary thing in a way. Nate Oates, I don't necessarily care for the guy. I'll never forgive the whole Brandon Miller situation. But, what he's been doing at Alabama has been pretty impressive, even if there have been some shenanigans to go along with it. So as of right now, they're the betting favorites at +800. And after that is UConn and Kansas at +1,000. Now that Danny Hurley's going back to UConn, I probably am going to take the Huskies. I'm going to put money down on the Huskies. Why not? The amount of times that they get to the tournament is pretty consistently. And the last time they lost in the NCAA tournament was actually in Buffalo, New York, the same time that Arkansas was up there, and they lost to New Mexico State and Chris Jans. That's how long it's been since they've lost a game in the NCAA tournament. So it's still higher odds than most, but if I'm going to be putting money down on it right now, I think going with the Huskies is not a bad pick until they lose. I mean, winning a championship is hard. Winning back-to-back titles is unreal. Winning back-to-back titles when you've dominated, absolutely decimated your opponents each and every step of the way in the tournament is unconscionable. But that's what UConn's done. So who's to say that they won't win a third in a row? You know, like, why wouldn't they? Danny Hurley's back. Yeah, I know they got new players and everything, and it's always difficult to predict it, but shoot, why not? So I may take money on it, but they're plus 1,000, Kansas plus 1,000. Continuing down the list, Duke is at plus 1,400. UConn is, Gonzaga is at plus 1,800. UNC plus 2,000. Baylor plus 2,500. Getting further down the list here. Iowa State at plus 2,500. Now, a few of these teams are going to be tied. So Baylor at plus 2,500. Iowa State at plus 2,500. Auburn at plus 2,500. And the other team that's tied with those teams at plus 2,500, Arkansas. Now, that's where it stands June 12th, 2024, the year of our Lord. That's where it stands for the odds. After that, you got Arizona at plus 3,300, Kentucky at plus 3,300, Purdue at plus 3,300, and Tennessee at plus 4,000. So based on the odds, Arkansas is tied for second in the SEC with the best betting odds to win a national championship right now. Alabama's number one, and Auburn's tied with Arkansas. So, again, what does this mean? If you're not a betting person, then it doesn't mean diddly to you. I get it. I understand it. It's whatever. But it really showcases a good idea and example of where Vegas feels best and most confident in the teams that could actually win a title. You can sit here and hear me predict on who's going to do. Like everyone fills out a bracket, right? Everyone's like, let's do this and this and this and this. No, but it's chaos. It's chaotic and everything. But Vegas is the best at it. No one's perfect at predicting, but they're the best at it because of how much research they do, how many people they have on board with it. That's why they make so much money, but that's why they also get people to bet on these teams. Like that's at the end of the day, that's what they want to do. They want, all right, well, how can we get more people to bet on a team? That's what they do. So plus 800 for Alabama, I wouldn't take it, to be honest. And people are going to be like, it's just because you hate Alabama. No, it's just because I just don't think that's good value. I don't think it's good value. I'd take UConn at plus 1,000. I'd even consider taking Duke at plus 1,400. Consider it. But Arkansas at plus 2,500, folks, if you can get in on that, get in on that. I mean, every year that's what I do. I bet I put $50 down on Arkansas to win a title. Obviously, they haven't. But one day, I'm hoping, ends up paying out pretty nicely. Nice little payday. Not a whole lot, but still enough. Actually, I did $100 last year, I think. So I think Arkansas was even less than this. I think they were at 1,800 maybe last year when I bet on them. So pretty good odds. Pretty good odds. Because a lot of these teams, you're kind of like, okay, again, you can't predict anything, but it's like UConn, obviously, makes sense. Kansas, they've won titles with Bill Self, makes sense. Duke, I know John Shire's new there, but they always get a lot of benefits for some reason. Can't imagine why. UNC, kind of the same thing. But when it comes to all the other teams, like Alabama, they got to the Final Four this past year for the first time. That's great. But I don't know if Nate Oates and all of them have what it takes to win a title. I mean, for crying out loud, Houston at plus 1,400. Kelvin Sampson's a phenomenal coach, and he has yet to win a title. Again, it shows you how difficult it is. He's been in Final Fours, but he's yet to win a title. Mark Few, Gonzaga, plus 1,800. I would never bet on them. ever until proven otherwise. Because even in the times we're really good and have some really good years, they don't have really anything to show for it. So it's really disappointing and has been disappointing, I'm sure, for Gonzaga fans throughout that whole process. Baylor's won a title, but nothing against Baylor. Nothing against Baylor. But it just feels like that year was kind of the year the stars all aligned at once. You know what I'm saying? Like that happens a lot in basketball and in sports in general. But man, they just had it. And it was the COVID year. Do we count that one? Do we count that one when you couldn't do it in front of a lot of fans? Yeah, we do. I would if it was Arkansas that won it. Still bitter that they lost to Baylor in that game. Not saying Arkansas would have won the national championship, but they could have. And then, Kentucky, absolutely not. Tennessee, I would not do it. Tennessee, I would not. Rick Barnes, they had a good year this past year, and they actually made a further run than most people thought, but I still wouldn't bet on them. So there's just some value in these teams. And I think Arkansas is one of those teams that gets value just because the Cal factor. Why not? It's chaotic. It's chaos. Nobody knows. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to lose in the first round. You don't know that? I don't know that. The American people don't know that. But what I do know about is L Jennings Law. It's all about the process, folks. Just like the NCAA tournament, just like everything else, it's about the process. And even in sports, on and off the field, it's about that too. And that's where L Jennings Law steps in. They have a proven success that covers every single detail, and they ensure that no aspect of your estate planning is overlooked. From drafting your last will to setting up a family trust, their team makes sure everything is in place that you need. So trust the L Jennings Law process and an estate plan that protects your loved ones and gives you a peace of mind. You can contact them today at 501-501-WILL. That's 501-501-9455. You can also check them out online at ljenningslaw.com. But when it comes to specializing in trust, in business planning, and in elder law, nobody does it better than L Jennings Law. So check them out today, again, at 501-501-WILL. That's 501-501-9455. All right, so we've talked a lot of basketball and about the odds and about where everything stands and all of that. But I was thinking about when, these odds get put down, and they do this in all sports. Like they do it in college football. They do it in college basketball, even in college baseball in some regards. But the odds are just extremely interesting to me. They always have been, and they always will be, just because of it gives you kind of a good idea of where things stand a little bit. But the thing is like with Arkansas, is that it's so new to everybody. Everything's new about Arkansas right now. They may be a flavor that people want to have a taste of, because there's combinations at place here that are proven in their own right, and they've now just officially came together. Arkansas is a program that has been proven time and time again that it can be one of the better programs in the country, because you have every single thing that you need to do and have, recruiting-wise, facility-wise, support-wise, to win a national championship. It's a great basketball program. And whenever you have the right guy in place, it ends up being even better. And that, my friends, is what Arkansas has had under Muss, really. I mean, he's a great coach. And I think he'll be a coach that's there at USC. I don't know how long he'll be. I guess the shelf life for Eric Musselman's 5 seasons. But I believe while he's there, he'll do all right. Now, will he do as good as what he did at Arkansas? Maybe. Because again, getting to the tournament's tough, and winning in the tournament is tough. But it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. And that's not a slack against him as a coach or anything, but it's about the program that you're in. And if you have the amenities and the facilities and everything to be great, they're going to be in a new conference now in the Big Ten, traveling like crazy. So, is that going to be an impact? Like all that stuff. But it was just a great pairing of a great coach with a great program that had success. And sometimes you get coaches that are pretty good coaches that go to programs that haven't necessarily been great, but have been elevated. I think that's what Bruce Pearl did at Auburn. I think what Nate Oates has done at Alabama. Programs that nobody cared about, no one gave a rip about. Even Rick Barnes at Tennessee, they had a little bit of success at Tennessee, but not much. And when you get great coaches in there, they can kind of elevate the program for you. But there hasn't been a whole lot of examples of great, elite, high-level coaches joining a program that's already pretty high on the list Like, there hasn't been many of those. The ones I can name off the top of my head would have been like, when Roy Williams left Kansas for North Carolina. Roy Williams was already established as a phenomenal coach, goes to North Carolina, rest is history. I think you can bring that out. I think even when John Calipari went to Kentucky, he was already a phenomenal coach in Memphis, went to Kentucky, a great program, and got it going. So those are just a few, again, off the top of my head. But the point is, I guess maybe Bill Self. I think Bill Self was a great coach at Illinois already. And when he went to Kansas, rest is history. So very few times has it actually happened, but it has happened. And when it's happened, here's what I've loved about it. It's worked. It worked when Roy Williams left Kansas for North Carolina. It worked when John Calipari left Memphis to go to Kentucky. It worked when Bill Self left Illinois to go to Kansas. It works. And that's another thing that I really hope for, is that with Arkansas and Cal coming together in one combination, I am hopeful that they will be able to move forward and make it work. I am hopeful for that. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be about how the culture, how the energy, how the players, the talent, the coaching, development, everything kind of comes together and how it moves forward and is it set up for success. I think there's no question that Arkansas as a program has set Calipari up for success. I don't know what else you could possibly do. You have set him up for success. He has proven that he can be a high-level success. And I don't care what anybody says. You could say it's cliche. You could say it's lame. You could say it's not right. It's falsehood. You could say whatever it is you like. But I truly believe that Arkansas has provided next level energy for John Calipari. It has rejuvenated him. Because sometimes we all need a change. Think about it in your own personal lives. Think about it in your own work lives and your job. Has there been times when you've taken risks to go somewhere else, folks? Boy, don't I know it. And when you have, what motivated you to do that? You may have been great and fine in a job that you enjoyed, and a job that you were fine in, that paid you well, that treated you all right, you had success in. But after 10, 15, 20 years being in the same position, being in the same job, I don't care who you are, folks, you get a little complacent. You get lackadaisical. It's human nature. We do that in every aspect of our life. Now, there's certain things that we do to fix it. I think relationships, for instance. Not everybody has relationships that last forever. I mean, still think divorce is 50% of the time, it seems like. But if you change that, it's whatever. But there's times where it's just, hey, you just make adjustments. Make it work. Keep growing. Keep growing. Growth always brings you to success and brings you to excitement and joy. Going back to like we talked about with L Jennings, the process, that's what it is. If you enjoy, you got to enjoy the process of getting to that point and continuing to grow and not never being satisfied. But it's a different thing when it comes to our relationships with our family members or our friends, our loved ones, and what it is with our actual jobs. Jobs can get mundane. When you don't have the drive, when you don't have the energy that you once did, you can't just snap your fingers and suddenly it just work. You can't just, wake up one day and then be like, oh yeah, the energy's back. Great. Sometimes you need a change. Sometimes you need to jump ship and do something different. It's not a bad thing. It might be a risky thing. It may not even work out for you, whatever. But at least the initial shock and enjoyment and excitement and energy that you have when you first start a job, that's what's going to take you to feeling great and to doing a better job and putting in the effort, because it's all different now. It's almost like a new challenge. It's almost like a new path, a new trip that you're on. You have gone through a trip year after year after year after year after year, and you're like, all right, I kind of get what happens here, It's like going to the same restaurant every Friday night. Seems like a good idea. You keep doing it, but over time, you're just kind of like, I don't know, let's do something different. And I think that's what's happened with Cal. Cal did great things at Kentucky. He was an awesome coach. He's a Naismith Hall of Fame coach, and deservedly so. Won a national championship, went to multiple Final Fours, had so many draft picks in the first round in the NBA, you can't even count them. The success he had it speaks for itself. But I believe that him coming into Arkansas and knowing that he still is set up for success. It's not like he wanted the challenge, like what I think, if you ever seen the movie Blue Chips, when the head coach at the end of the movie, after coaching high-level college basketball and all the craziness, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but he's like, I just want to coach, so he goes and coaches like junior high or whatever. It's not like that, where it's just I just want to go back to being easy. No, it's still difficult. It's still a challenge. It's still going to be tough because there's still an expectation at Arkansas to do great things. But it's different enough that Cal has been just like, I don't have to worry about going out everywhere and people, looking at me weird or yelling at me and being mad at me because I haven't won enough NCAA tournament games over the past 3 years. Like, I don't have to worry about, going into the same office, looking at the same court, looking at the same practice facility, looking at the same fans and the same boosters and the same AD and the same everything. It's like everything's new. Anytime there is something new, it brings on excitement, no matter what it is. Folks, yes, Calipari is an exciting coach, and that's not even a question. When the hire was made, we know, the American people know that it was next level awesome. Brought the roof off, just brought the house down. You cannot really put a price and put a measure on how incredible that hire was. You truly can't. But it still would have been a new energy. It still would have been a level of excitement if it was just somebody new. Somebody new. You may have disagreed with the hire. You may have hated the hire. You may have hated the process. You may think it's going to be bad, but you're still going to be interested. You're still going to renew your season tickets. You're still going to be like, okay. Who knows? We'll see. Oh, we got that player. That's a pretty good player. Maybe this will actually work out okay. New, revived energy. Starting a new life is exciting. And Arkansas has excitement right now. And that's where it's like, Cal could do it could go a lot of different directions. Cal could do so many different things at Arkansas. He could go and be one of the greatest coaches of all time here in the short span. And he could win 2 national championships, back to back. And the other 3 years, he goes only to the Final Four. He could do that. And I don't think it would be surprising to anybody. In fact, it'd be pretty awesome. Or it could go not so well. It could go like it's been going for Kentucky the past few years, where they've only done really well in the SEC and they've lost early in the NCAA tournament. I think they're 1-3 in their last 3 appearances. It could go that way too. But I'm interested. I'm excited. I have energy. I'm looking forward to it. And let's be honest, it's Arkansas. Is it ever going to go the way we all expect it to? Is it ever going to be as great as what we hope or as bad as what we think? Well, sometimes as bad as what we think. But that's where the excitement comes in. And that's why I think Cal's going to be great at Arkansas, because he himself is rejuvenated in coaching basketball once again. Folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Signature Bank. Speaking of rejuvenation, Signature is a privately held boutique bank that's been redefining the banking experience in our entire region, where they have blended the warmth and familiarity of a community bank with the sophistication of a commercial bank. And having the expertise of private banking to deliver unmatched levels of service makes it even better. They're always going to be personally invested into you. And they're going to be business-minded as well, where they have a commercial focus that they cater to distinct needs of local businesses, entrepreneurs, as well as their families. They're community-focused as well, where they're strong and stable in a financial institution, proud to be born right here in the city of Fayetteville. So they're true Arkansans. They're just the right size, where they're not the biggest bank in the world that's going to forget about you because you're just a number, but they're not the small bank that doesn't have the amenities and the resources to be able to help you out in your time of need. And that's why we love doing banking with Signature Bank. So give them a call today at any of their locations here in the state of Arkansas, or you can just visit their website at signature.bank. That's www.signature.bank. Do your banking, do something important like finances with your money, your livelihood, and your business. You want it to be taken care of? Well, there's only one place to do it at, and that's Signature Bank, the official bank of Natty State Sports.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, Razorback fans, it is time for your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. And for your Arkansas update, a few things have transpired. We already talked about Arkansas basketball, men's basketball, being a part of the SEC ACC Challenge. They'll be facing off against the Miami University. They'll be taking on the Hurricanes on December 3rd down there in Miami. But also the women's basketball team, Mike Nabors' squad, who I know people have their own feelings about Mike Nabors. He needs to get it done. He needs to get something moving forward. And this year, they're going to be also participating in the ACC SEC Challenge, and they will be facing off against Boston College on Thursday, December 5th at Bud Walton Arena. So Arkansas will be going on the road in the men's, and they will be staying at home in the women's. In fact, Mike Nabors even said one of the great things about the SEC ACC Challenge is bringing teams together that have never played or rarely played. It's almost like I talked about that. It's been 23 years since we played against Boston College. It will certainly be a contrast as we have a lot of new faces while they return 5 starters. We were at the same holiday tournament with them last year, so we saw how they like to play. This one will be a fun one for our players and our fans. It will be one of several chances in the preseason to evaluate ourselves against SEC opponents. So there's going to be that game, and they're going to be facing off against Boston College at home. Also, Hagen Smith. Another award going to Hagen Smith as he's been named the Perfect Game Pitcher of the Year for the Arkansas Razorbacks. He earned First Team All-America, we know, from Perfect Game, but being named the Perfect Game Pitcher of the Year, that's big time. That's big time. I guess it's the Cy Young for college baseball, if you want to call it that way, but he made his case. He went 9-2 this past year, had a 2.04 ERA, 161 strikeouts in 84 innings over 16 starts. He was named the SEC Pitcher of the Year, where he went 7-0 with a 1.35 ERA and 110 strikeouts in 60 innings over 10 SEC starts in the mound. I know, he also led the NCAA records with an NCAA record of 17.3 strikeouts per 9 innings on the season and finished ranked first nationally in allowing just per 9 innings and hits allowed per 9 innings, 4.4, second in strikeouts, 161, fourth in ERA, 2.04, and seventh in WHIP, 0.89. I know that we all saw what Hagen Smith was able to do this year, but sometimes whenever you read a stat, it's true, and it's not like it just shocked you as far as you didn't know. But when you really go through and you read that stat line about what he did in the SEC in 10 starts, where he went 7-0 with a 1.35 ERA with, 60 strikeouts in 60 innings, 110 strikeouts in 60 innings. Are you kidding me? It doesn't get much better than that. That's incredible. So again, I know Hagen Smith was awesome, but whenever I see that, I just kind of put it together. I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, that guy was really good. That guy was really, really good. So, but there you have it. There is your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Okay, I want to play this clip. This is phenomenal. I love when NIL deals are creative, and I think I even talked about this for Hunter Dietz, speaking of baseball. Hunter Dietz is, for those of you who may not know, he's a pitcher that truly has all the stuff that he could possibly need and want. He could be electric. He could be great, the best. He's got all the potential in the world. He didn't play much this year. He had injuries, saw him a little bit, but if he gets healthy and he gets right, there's a chance that he could be not only a big contributor next year, but could be a starter on the weekends. Anyways, I mentioned about him signing with Dietz & Watson, which is this meat company out of Philadelphia. Just kind of random. You're like, what in the world? Well, it's called Dietz & Watson. So it only makes sense that Hunter Dietz does a NIL deal with Dietz & Watson. And I'm going to show you this video because we already knew that he signed with them, but there's a promotional video, and man, oh man, is it great.
never heard of Deets nuts?
I mean, come on. Come on here. Like, this is so perfect. And I am so happy that, like, he's doing this, and it's very self-aware and so funny. And just, hey, you never heard of Deets nuts? And then just a look right there. It's great. And then him just holding the bag with a smile. That right there. That's a good sport. That's a good sport. You know, especially if you have some fun play on your name, and to be able to have some fun with this, like this. I just had to share it. That was too good not to share. I just had to share that. So kudos to him, man. Hopefully he got a lot of money out of it. I don't know what he got, but hopefully he got at least a decent amount of money on it, because that is absolutely worth every single penny. Before we take a break, I want to tell you all about our friends over at Alumni Hall. We know Alumni Hall is the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. You want to be a part of it. If you want any sort of apparel, any sort of decor, anything Razorback related that's got the Razorback hog on it, and different types of logos too, you have no other place to go. It's Alumni Hall right here in Fayetteville, 3417 North College Avenue. But we also know that not only is their store great with the inordinate amount of great items to choose from, but you also have, for instance, a great assortment of things on their website, because their catalog's on the website. If you go to nattystatesports.com/alumni hall, that's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. You go on that website, you'll be able to see their entire catalog and have it delivered straight to your door. Sometimes it's hard to get to Fayetteville or get to the store in Fayetteville, and you want to have it ready for the football season that's upcoming. Well, there's no other place to go. Just go to Alumni Hall in Fayetteville, right there on College Avenue, or visit their website for the ultimate Razorback shopping experience, where they have everything for men, women, and children, and even your pets. It's Alumni Hall here in Fayetteville.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, it is now time for the final segment of the show. Hey, y'all see this, and it is brought to you by Superior Contracting and Development. We know that they are licensed residential and commercial contractors specializing in all aspects of home building and remodeling. They handle everything from fencing to drainage to additions of remodeling of your existing structure, all the way to land development and ground-up construction. Call them today for your interior and exterior construction remodeling needs at 501-453-3053. That's 501-453-3053. You can also check out their website at superiorcontractingar.com. But for whatever it is, when it comes to your interior and exterior design needs, do it with Superior Contracting and Development at 501-453-3053. All right. Hey, y'all see this. Let's go ahead and get into it. So this was a kind of a fun story. So we know that streakers or participants on the field and all that, it's just kind of part of it. Sometimes it's really dumb, but it's still pretty funny. And that's exactly what happened in this particular case, where somebody got on the field. Well, when they run around at a baseball field, you know, they usually get the cops chasing them or the security or whatever. Well, this guy did a backflip. All right. This guy did a backflip, but then they tased him as soon as he did. So let's check this out. Look at this. Look at this. The guy's running. Whoop. Look at that. That's incredible. Keeps running, and then they tase him. And I happen to agree with kind of what Barstool Sports said here. You can't tase a guy after doing that, after accomplishing that as a streaker. It's like, okay, just let him get to the fence, or maybe we can at least still chase him. But you know, let him at least have a little bit of time. Don't tase him. Tase him if he's just running. But if he pulls off a backflip like that, you got to keep that going. You got to let him have his time in the sun. That's entertainment. It's stupid when somebody runs out there. It's pretty great when somebody runs out there and does a backflip. Give him credit and praise for that. So yeah, that was pretty unfortunate to see that. Also, in some other news, as a Jets fan, this is something that's funny to me. I saw this headline from Barstool. It says, Jets are scrambling to excuse Aaron Rodgers' unexcused absence from mandatory minicamp, making it all more pathetic. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers missed out on mandatory camp. And the Jets have leaked an explanation, according to Pro Football Talk, for their handling of the Aaron Rodgers mandatory minicamp absence. And it doesn't make the situation any better, because it says most teams have one or more reporters to whom they will leak self-serving explanations whenever something controversial happens, as we know in media. For the Jets, one of those reporters happens to be, in my opinion, Connor Hughes of SNY. It's Hughes who's providing the detailed explanation of the Aaron Rodgers absence from mandatory minicamp. Here's his nothing to see here post from X this morning. It says Aaron Rodgers planned this trip, and he was still rehabbing. The Jets have known about it from the moment that there was an overlap within the release of the minicamp schedule. Aaron Rodgers is unexcused because you can't excuse a trip, but not in contract dispute. And the tweet goes on to say, semantics, but there's no unrest inside the building. The Jets don't think it's a big deal. Not sure why the world is reacting differently. Aaron Rodgers missed these 2 days after being at every voluntary workout in the last 2 years. Will have zero impact on what they try to accomplish. So here's my thing. Mandatory minicamps, like this is something that gets brought up a lot in the NFL. Maybe I'm saying this because it's a Jets fan, or at least somebody will accuse me, but I don't really care. If you're Aaron Rodgers and you've established yourself and you're one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play and you're coming off of a pretty major injury, I don't care what you do in minicamp. I care what you do in the season. Okay? Now, if this season he's healthy, because we know last year, so stupid, but if he's healthy this year and he goes out and he performs poorly, there's problems in the locker room and stuff, then maybe something like this gets a little bit magnified and may mean something. But if you're Aaron Rodgers, you don't need this. You know, you get to a point as a quarterback, especially in the NFL, where if you've established enough and you know everything, like you don't need to go to that stuff. I mean, again, if you have to, and like it was mentioned, he's been to every voluntary workout for the last 2 years, that's different because it's like you've kind of established yourself there. But people who always try to point fingers and say how terrible this is or terrible whatever is, I'm not about that. And I think that's dumb, and it's been made way too big of a deal in this whole thing too. So I don't understand why, but I guess it's just something to talk about. How about this? A Harvard study says aliens may be living among us and using a base inside the moon. Okay. A Harvard study says this. Here's the thing. I just wanted to bring this up because of aliens and that whole thing. Either are they here or not? I do not care about conspiracy theories. I don't care about theories. I don't care about that. They may be doing this. They may be doing that. We may have seen this. We may have seen that. Who cares? Who cares? Like, you know, if it goes full Independence Day on us and then we have to fight back and with our fighter jets that we're so technologically outnumbered, then okay. But who cares, man? Is there life beyond the stars? Maybe. And if there is, okay, what? Then what? What are we going to do? What can we do? I just don't get it. So people who are into that, that's fine. But all the stuff that I ever see about aliens is just something like, I do not give a rip. Okay, now this is something that I could go out on a tangent, but I love Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch is a cool dude. He's very much unfiltered, as we know. He's very honest. He's a very great player. Like him or love him or hate him, but he's always going to shoot you straight. Well, there was this TikTok video that came out that he was holding a camp, and apparently it was a camp for kids, and he was cussing at him a little bit, getting on to him a little bit, you know, like what happens in practices in football. So some moms are freaking out on him. Take a watch and take a listen.
Every one of them's
all right, that's okay.
No, my son's in jail. It's not okay. You didn't say that. Maybe you should just let him know because they're all in tears.
Is there a man here with you? Okay, I do. I cuss a lot. I cuss in front of them. So look, I cuss a lot.
Every one of them's
all right, that's okay.
No, my son's in jail. It's not okay.
Is there a man here with you?
Not here.
Is not a man here with you?
But I'm here. Why? What does that matter?
Because
My son is leaving. I don't care. It's my son.
So tell them
Did you want here too? They all
but I'll tell them that if they're not doing what they need to do, then yes, there's consequences to that.
Yeah.
If it takes that amount of time for when I tell a kid to do something and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then there is consequences, like push-ups, like running laps,
like telling them
like
to get away from your drill.
like telling them to get out of my drill if they're not participating,
Get out of
doing
your
right,
drill.
get out of my drill,
I'm not even
get the out of my drill, or whatever it takes to get my drill.
Okay. So here's the thing. You know, I'm not going to tell anybody how to treat some, kids and whatnot. You know, I don't have any kids. I know everything's different. But here's my thing is like, is there a certain time you can go across a line with, especially dealing with kids and coaching kids and in sports? Of course there is. There always has been. But getting on kids for not participating, cussing at kids and trying to push them and trying to make them better and everything, that's part of it. That's part of it. Again, as long as you're not like personally berating them and, undressing them down because of the way they look or anything, if you're trying to get on them because they're not giving the effort, if you're trying to push them to be better, if they're messing around, screwing, whatever, it's like, That's part of it. It's like, I think I was in 5th grade football. Yes, 5th grade football. No, 6th grade football. That was the first time that I ever heard a coach cuss and cuss at me. Shocking, I know. And yeah, it was pretty like, oh, geez. But you know what it did? It was like, okay, well, I don't want to do that again. I don't want him cussing at me. Was I upset? Was I emotional? Probably so, but that's life. So I'll never understand this. Again, there's a line you don't want to cross. I get it. And no, Marshawn Lynch, if that's going off that video, if that's all he did and said and that was the problem, who cares? Who cares? The kids are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Anyways, I just thought that was something I needed to bring up because it's just, I don't know, it really annoys me when things like that happen. But either way, appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the John Nabors Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to everything Natty State Sports and all of our social media accounts, as well as on YouTube. Follow us across the board, as we always have great content that we're doing our best to take care of business and talk about the Razorbacks and talk about all things going on here in the Natty State. And we'll keep it going from there. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of